to the second part of our Character Unlock Call of Duty special. Thanks ever so much for coming back for the continuation of last week's episode. I'll just get straight into it. Sit back. I hope you enjoy the episode, and let us know your thoughts on Twitter and Facebook and wherever else you can find us. Thank you very much. That was 2009, and we move on to
Black Ops 1.
Black Ops 1, which I loved Black Ops 1.
The almost sequel to World at War.
But it was a sequel to World at War.
Yeah, it was a sequel in an odd roundabout way.
Yeah, it was a World at War. It was more than just a follow-on for the company. It was a sequel-ish.
Yeah, it's 20 years, so it's like World War II's World at War to Vietnam's Black Ops?
Yeah.
But not just Vietnam. It was Vietnam and then some.
Yeah, so the setting for Black Ops was, okay, some of it was Vietnam, but it was more Cold War.
Yeah.
So it was Vietnam, it was Cuba, it was things like that. It was that kind of era. It was Treyarch's attempt to not to kind of move on from what the World War II setting,
but not go full modern warfare. We'll go classic gaming, so people can play stuff that's iconic, memorable storyline of areas that people know about without going, this is what life is at the moment.
And what they've done actually, and this was genius on Treyarch's part. The story they done. Do you know the Manchurian Candidate?
Yes.
It's basically the Manchurian Candidate. For all intents and purposes. It's dude brainwashed and trained to be a killer by the government who can be activated by certain things, basically. But they brought in David S. Goyer to write the script. Now David S. Goyer's written shitloads, not all of it good. He wrote Black Ops, which was very good. But he's responsible for screenwriting the Dark Knight trilogy, Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, which was excellent. I don't care what anybody says. So they had excellent story to start with, and they built this amazing game around it, which, I don't think I can say anything bad about Black Ops. I don't think. No, I can't. Its setting was different, original. It had a strange kind of, like I say, Manchurian Candidate style story to it as well. It was a lot of fun. It was brutal. Some of it was quite horrible. It ripped off plenty. Yeah, it famously it rips off Deer Hunter's Russian roulette scene when it kills off Ice Cube, because we needed Ice Cube in a Call of Duty game.
Yeah, but Ice Cube was probably the best part about it, because he's the narrator for the American armies in the multiplayer.
Yeah.
So you get to have his lovely voice for hearing enemy UAVs, and his inability to pronounce the letter D on Inbound.
But it was also it wasn't as revolutionary as, say, Modern Warfare or Modern Warfare 2, but it changed a few things up. Most importantly, even though it was kind of it's a little thing to think about, it's the first time your character spoke. Before then, the player's character never talked.
Yeah.
Or if he talked, it was while you weren't in control of him. But here, you playing as Alex Mason, voiced by shit Terminator Sam Worthington. Yeah, you spoke. You were part of the story. You got involved in the story, and did you play Black Ops?
I did play Black Ops. It was one of the few Treyarch games that I enjoyed. Obviously I liked Call of Duty 3, Treyarch game, and World at War was very fun. But after that, Black Ops came about really. It's a bad way to say it, but Modern Warfare 2 was the first and last Call of Duty game that I fell in love with. Black Ops came after it, so naturally I bought it based on the fact that I've played a Call of Duty game and I loved it. So let's get the next Call of Duty game and see how I feel. And I finished the story, and moving on from that, played the zombies, but I moved back to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 from that, and Black Ops sole purpose was playing zombies after finishing the story, and Modern Warfare 2 was why I played the multiplayer.
Fair enough.
So I know it's the Cold War 1960s. You play as Mason and whatnot. I do remember the mission where you're the SR-71 pilot.
Yeah, see, that was kind of one of the different things, because every year they try and do something a little bit different, or they at least used to try and do something every year. And this one was the SR-71 missions where you You're trying to sneak people through bases.
Yeah, you're the RTS style.
Yeah.
You're moving here's a group of enemies. You need to move your soldiers to this location so they've got an ambush,
Yeah.
or you need to move them here so they're not seen.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, especially on the harder difficulties.
Yeah, because you used to have to you were supposed to stealth it through the game like that. And if you didn't, you were suddenly put into the position of the guys on the ground. And all of a sudden, you're in a gunfight. And you have to, clear everything out before you're given control of the SR-71 back. So, it was an achievement to get through. I think it was actually an achievement to get through that section without
taking control of the gunfight.
Without taking control of the guys on the ground. It was an interesting little add-on. It was taken a step too far, I think, in the next Black Ops game, but at least for this one, I thought it was excellent. And it had a lot of freedom, considering that it's the time it was set. Had a lot of freedom to do different things and go different places and play with this, this fantastical idea of what Americans think happened during the Cold War. But you also get a lot of time to, to see, again, a bit like with the early ones, you see a lot of things that really happened. You spend time in the Bay of Pigs, at which point you try to assassinate a very young Castro.
Yeah. Well, you do, essentially. As far as you're aware, you do assassinate Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
And until the very end of the mission, where you find out it was a body double. And that's what starts the storyline along, where you bump into Reznov.
Yeah, and then, obviously, I was going to say that, and then, you're stuck in a gulag with Reznov, which is, and he's almost a parody of himself in parts of this game, which is really cool. He's almost like, he's less Reznov and more drunk Gary Oldman when he turns up in that Friends episode. But when you skip past all that, he's, Reznov's back, and this is where, it's all but confirmed that this is a sequel to World at War. And Reznov helps you through most of the campaign. Most of the time, you're with you're just Mason and Reznov.
I liked the mission in that one where you play as Reznov. This is the reason to why Reznov's in the gulag. They're going to find the Nova 6 on, I think it was a boat in the Arctic or a submarine in the Arctic.
Yeah.
And that's the point where you realise that Dmitri, the guy who gets shot at the end of World at War, survived being shot. Your player character in World at War, for the Russian side, survived being shot. And you're playing as Reznov, and that's where Dmitri dies, and that's why Reznov is really against the enemies that you are up against. Because he's witnessed his entire team die in front of him thanks to the nerve gas, the Nova 6, and that's what sets the story going, because before that it's just typical, this is 1960 CIA Black Ops missions, and there wasn't necessarily a story involved. It's just, you could be doing a CIA Black Ops mission here, you could be doing it over here, but it's the Reznov character that ties it all together really well.
No, I was a big fan of Reznov's character, and I thought he'd done amazingly well tying everything together. And again, like I said, Gary Oldman, even in his shittiest of roles, he's still better than most, and he was great as Reznov. And it's probably the only Call of Duty whose story is more important than the gunplay in it. And by the time you get to the end, the twist after twist after twist towards the end, they blow you away, even if you see them coming. They're absolutely outstanding, and it's a testament to the story writing and the direction of the game that a story like that, which in a film would be pretty run of the mill, in a game that where you're in control, it's that good and it's that interesting. It was refreshing when it came out, and it has been, certainly for me, since, it's been topped with some twists and some stories, but not by much.
Yeah, I can honestly say that the twist to that in the game, I didn't really see coming. The first one, well, it's the second one, really, the one that's really obvious right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Of the interrogation room, it's quite clearly the CIA.
Oh yeah.
It's right from the start. It's painfully obvious that the interrogation is being done by the CIA on you. It was the other one, the Reznov. I didn't see that one.
The Reznov twist was very, very, very well played.
Especially the view from the CIA guys when you play the Nova 6 mission.
Yeah.
And you see what happens through the glass.
Yeah. Because you play as Hudson.
Yeah, you play as Hudson for that mission, and that scene, I didn't see that one coming, and that bit of storytelling where you see that scene from both angles of Mason and Hudson, one after the other. That was good storytelling.
Yep.
And I'm a lot wiser now. I'll say that.
It was quite refreshing as well, considering, we were, at this point, we're 2 Modern Warfare games in, and 2 Modern Warfare games have blown people away. Treyarch could have just rested on their laurels and they could have churned out anything, and it would have made a shitload of money.
They just needed to put zombies on a game and go, yep. Here's Call of Duty Zombies, the video game. Have money, please.
But even the zombies were different for this one, weren't they? Because they had the story, and they had, you had presidents and famous people getting in on the act. You didn't just play random soldier dude.
Oh yeah, the zombies mission for, what was it, post the story of the game. After the credits, you load into a zombies game, and you've got Fidel Castro, John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, and some other bloke.
I can't remember the other one, but no, you're right.
But you're in the White House, and you have to go to the war room, and you have to get to DEFCON 5 for the story.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant because it's later on that in the DLC map Ascension, which is the one that I played a fucking ton because it was possibly the most interesting of the maps and probably the most fun one for Easter eggs to pick up. Yeah. But there are sections of 5 for the zombies map with where you answer telephones.
Yeah.
And depending on who it is that you're playing as, when you answer the telephone, you get a specific character show up, to talk down the telephone to you. Okay. In a roundabout way of what they're doing. It sounds kind of like someone talking to you while fighting off a horde of enemies at the same time. Ascension has phones in it as well. And if you pick up the phone, you hear the reverse.
Okay.
So it's like they're happening at the exact same time. So if you're playing as one of the characters, you pick the phone up, you could hear Richard Nixon, or John F. Kennedy, or Fidel Castro fighting hordes of zombies. Now, that right there showed exactly where Treyarch are going with the zombies in the story.
Yeah.
That I didn't realise at the time. It wasn't until later reading into it. I was thinking back, going, I do remember that. I absolutely remember picking up one of the random phones because it was ringing, and Richard Nixon talking to me, saying one of his weird little one-liners in the game.
Nice. No, I never knew that. And briefly touching on the multiplayer, because again, I didn't play. No, I like Black Ops. I played a lot of the multiplayer.
I played a lot of one of the game modes of the multiplayer.
Well, this was the thing. So you had to. I was achievement hunting or trophy hunting when Black Ops came out, and you had to prestige at least once. So hit max level, circle all the way back to 0 again. You had to do that once, I believe, for a trophy.
Yes,
so I
think so. Yeah.
I mean, it only took me a couple of sessions to do it. It didn't take long because it doesn't take long. But I played it for a little while. But it's worth noting that this was. A lot of the multiplayer content was done by Raven Software, who it was their first time spending any time with the Call of Duty franchise. Now, if I remember rightly, I believe Raven Software are the guys who took over doing things like Quake and they've done Wolfenstein as well, if I remember rightly.
Yes.
Not the new good ones.
Not the good ones, but the shit ones. Yeah.
The shit PS3 one from a few years ago.
It wasn't. It wasn't awful. It wasn't great.
It was fucking terrible.
I was the only person when I played one game of multiplayer of that, and I was the only one who knew what the fuck was going on because I played the story.
Single player, yeah. But yeah, that was I think that was their first foray into the Call of Duty multiplayer scene, and they done the awesome one for me was they introduced Gun Game, which was it's a years old game type, but it was the first time it appeared in Call of Duty.
It was the first time it appeared anywhere that was outside of CS.
Yeah, pretty much.
You start with the shit pistols, work your way up to ridiculously powerful weapons, and then move all the way to the ballistic knife.
Yep.
Yeah, ballistic knives and tomahawks.
Yep. And tomahawks. So yeah, so they introduced Gun Game to multiplayer, which was awesome. I played Gun Game for quite a bit, but it was one of those. Especially for Black Ops, because it was the first time it happened. It was one of those game modes that just suffered from not being team deathmatch.
Or search and destroy, or domination.
So no one really wanted to play it.
Now, I was a big fan of the other game mode that they introduced. Well, one of the other two, because there was 3. It was
Sticks and Stones.
No, the other one. One in the chamber.
One in the chamber. Yeah, One in the chamber was good.
One in the chamber was absolutely my favourite because everyone had one bullet. It was one shot kill. but only if you shot them above waist height.
Yeah.
So you could shoot someone in the knee and they wouldn't die. They'd get severely. There was like 90% damage.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to shoot them. You could stab people. And if you stabbed people, you got their bullet. You only had 3 lives. So the best thing to do, run around, stab
Just
everyone
knife people. Yeah.
until you've got 6 bullets. And then you've got, say, 6 bullets. Your opponent's got 1 bullet, because you only get a bullet back if you get a kill.
Yeah.
So let's say you've got 6 bullets and 2 lives. Your opponent's got 1 bullet and 2 lives.
Yeah.
It's quite simple who's going to win that, because you've got the advantage of being able to spray a little bit. You don't have to wait. You don't have to use the quick aim lock on and abuse that and try and get that one shot, one kill situation. You've got a bit of leeway in that you can aim down the sight early. You can fire a shot, miss, and then fire a second one and hit.
Yeah. No, I didn't mind one shot, one kill. That was quite one in the chamber. That was quite good.
Sticks and stones was a bit shit as far as I was concerned.
I quite liked
Tomahawks and crossbows.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was quite fun, but gun game was where it was at for.
I'm the person on gun game who ran around knifing everyone. I didn't. It's like, because you had to get a kill with the weapon to progress to the next one. I knew for a fact I can't get how many guns was it? It was like 15 guns.
20
guns. I can't get 20. I couldn't get 20 kills in a regular game of team deathmatch. There was no way in hell I was going to get 20 kills in a game of gun game, considering I have to use guns that I would never have used. I couldn't get 20 kills in a game of regular TDM using just the FAMAS.
Fair enough.
So the FAMAS, which is essentially a laser gun. It's like unbelievable low recoil type gun, 3 bullets to kill someone. I couldn't get 20 kills in that. I didn't stand a chance in gun games. So I was the dickhead running around knifing everyone, knocking people down a peg.
Nice. So moving on. So we're on to 2011 and we're on to Modern Warfare 3. Now Modern Warfare 3 was interesting. It divided a lot of people. I remember this.
I didn't like it. I'm going to throw that one out there. I played the story to finish the story of Modern Warfare. That was it. That was all I cared about. I wasn't interested in any of it. I'd fallen away from Call of Duty at this point. I'd moved Battlefield. I was full Battlefield at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing with Battlefield multiplayer was always where I spent my multiplayer time. Always, without fail. But Battlefield stories have never really been good, outside of Bad Company. And that's not to say they're not fun to play. They are fun to play, but I've just never really been that invested in. Whereas Call of Duty, as far as I'm concerned, you know what you're getting. Like it or not, you're getting a 5 to 6 hour fucking Michael Bay movie. Lots of explosions, lots of killing. But weirdly, and this was weird for me, and Modern Warfare 3 is where this kind of came to a head. I didn't realise just how much I gave a shit about some of the characters I was playing as or with.
Soap.
Yeah, and this is the thing, there is that point in Modern Warfare 3, and again, I'm going to spoil it, but when Soap dies, I was fucking distraught.
Yeah, I distinctly remember walking into the office, because we were working together at this point.
Yeah.
I
was absolutely gutted.
Walked into the office that day after Call of Duty had been released. We'd both played it. We'd both reached that mission, and I just walked into the office and I said, "Soap," and you replied with, "Soap." That was it. That was the whole conversation.
I was absolutely distraught, and it was a weird moment when you realise, love it or hate it, and so many people hate Call of Duty, especially when it comes to the campaign. So many people hate it, and I've spent enough time ragging on it as a game series as well. But you suddenly realise that, 5 years later, you're playing the third entry to this series, and holy shit, okay, I'm not sitting in tears at it, but I was like, oh. You have to pause it and walk away. And at the time I smoked, kind of have a cigarette and compose myself. Oh, fucking hell, what the fuck? And, respectively, you get to the end of the game and you hang the dude and light your cigar. I was fucking cheering. Literally, I went from sitting on my sofa in front of the TV, just playing and killing people, to literally yelling in an empty house. There's nobody else in the house. Fucking have that, you cunt. I was so fucking happy when I got to the end of that game and went, I feel like I've done a good job here. This was awesome. You shouldn't be able to have those feelings towards Call of Duty. You say Call of Duty to most people and they think the multiplayer or they think, oh, shit story. But I was really invested in Call of Duty as a as a series, as a story. That that dwindles a little pretty much after this entry. But Battlefield never done that to me. Now you want to talk about Medal of Honor? We can talk about how Medal of Honor fucking destroyed me. But Battlefield never had that connection. Never cared. No, it's unfair to say I never enjoyed the campaigns. I always played them and they were always fun.
Yeah.
But multiplayer for Battlefield,
story for Call of Duty,
always went to Call of Duty, which I know is really fucking stupid to say, and a lot of people are going to go, think I'm a fucking retard for saying that. But that was where it was. And Modern Warfare 3, like you say, you didn't like it. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I think a lot of people, we'd been spoilt by that point. I think we'd been spoilt with, the excellent Call of Duty 4, which had, like we said, had revolutionised everything. World at War had given us zombies. Modern Warfare 2 had given us Spec Ops, and still kept improvements to the multiplayer. By the time we got to Modern Warfare 3, people were just waiting for that next big thing, and it didn't really happen with Modern Warfare 3. It had critically acclaimed story and critically acclaimed multiplayer, but for the masses who had been spoilt by the massive increase in quality every year for the last couple of years, by the time we got to Modern Warfare 3, expectations were through the roof and they were never going to be met, no matter what they'd done. This thing could have spat gold hookers giving blowjobs at the second you put it into the machine. It still wouldn't have met people's expectations. There was no way it was living up to it. Yeah, but that's just how I see it. Like I said, I plugged the disc in and I thoroughly fucking enjoyed myself with Modern Warfare 3. Worth noting that Sledgehammer Games co-developed it, who were a bunch of ex-Visceral guys, so the guys that made Dead Space back in the day. So they came along and they co-developed the game. It was their first Call of Duty game. They come back a little bit later on. I think. Yeah, it had Paul Haggis writing. Paul Haggis, if you haven't come across him, he most famously he wrote, produced, and directed Crash back in the day.
Which Crash?
The good one. not the David Cronenberg car accident porn one.
Yeah.
But maybe most telling about Modern Warfare 3, and this kind of it perfectly sums up, forgetting what I just said about, really being invested in characters and that, but it pretty much sums up my feelings towards Call of Duty most of the time. The music for this one was done by a guy called Brian Tyler, who done, like, Rambo and The Expendables and a couple of Marvel films.
Yeah.
That says everything to me about Call of Duty. Just dumb, silly action films that I'm not expecting to win Oscars at all, but I'm still going to enjoy my time with. Call of Duty is the Expendables of video games, and I am more than okay with that.
I like the list of NPC character voice actors.
Yeah?
Sandman is voiced by William Fichtner.
Yep.
Truck with Idris Elba.
Yep.
And Grinch is Timothy Olyphant.
Yes, he is.
I think, as far as it goes, that right there is a good cast for any film ever.
And obviously, Kevin McKidden, Billy Connolly come back as Price and Soap.
Pretty sure his name's Billy Murray, not Connolly.
Billy Murray, sorry, not Billy. Pretty sure I said Billy Connolly earlier as well.
You've been saying Billy Connolly the entire time.
I don't fucking know why. I'm pretty sure I wrote Billy Connolly. Yeah, I'm a fucking knob. Billy Murray, that's the way.
And Craig Fairbrass is...
Craig Fairbrass comes back as well. He's just random SAS dude.
Yeah. Instead of having Gaz or Ghost, he's just some guy.
I think the only time you really spend with him is in the tube station.
Which is a bit of a shame.
But, again, Craig Fairbrass, as much as he died in every Modern Warfare game, he was a staple. He had to be there.
Yeah.
You say you didn't like Modern Warfare 3. I know a lot of people didn't. And I know it was the downturn for a lot of people for Call of Duty. It's pretty much since Modern Warfare 3, it's like this universally hated game, even though everybody still buys it.
Modern Warfare 3 was the ugly duckling, for want of a better term, of the Modern Warfare franchise. It was the churned out, we've left a cliffhanger, let's stick this here type situation.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure I see it that way.
There wasn't a cliffhanger ending to Modern Warfare 1, and Modern Warfare 2 was nicely put together because it was set 5 years afterwards. Modern Warfare 2's ending was a bit of a cliffhanger, and you jump into the action all of about 20 seconds after the ending.
Yeah.
Which I think it suffered heavily based on the fact that it was generic sequel to generic sequel. It was like
Fair enough.
RoboCop 3.
Oh no, come on! It was not fucking RoboCop 3.
Mad Max 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't even go that far. Yeah, but like I say, I lied. It was a good way to finish the series. I think I probably would have been disappointed if 2 years later we got Modern Warfare 4. I think then I maybe would have gone, we don't need this anymore. But
yeah, I think a lot of people would have been angry if Modern Warfare 4 had happened. But
yeah.
to an extent, it kind of did with one of the Ghosts, kind of half-ish.
Yeah, maybe.
But at least with Modern Warfare 3, it had that obvious one, the shock scene that was the staple of the Modern Warfare franchise, where you play as the family in London.
Yeah, see, that was pretty hardcore. But I think at that point, not only had we kind of gotten... I don't think we were numb to it by that point, but it wasn't as shocking as, say, No Russian was.
No.
It wasn't as shocking as, say, dropping a nuke. Chemical warfare or chemical attack in London, we were basically at this point playing an episode of 24. There was... It wasn't... It was a horrible scene, but and there were sites, I remember it happening as well, there were a couple of websites that tried to stir up a bit of controversy with it. Oh, this is the new No Russian. No, it ain't.
It's you've got no ties whatsoever to this family. It's essentially a cutscene that would have been in any game, any film, and there are much, much worse bits of the Rainbow Six book.
Yep, for sure.
And to an extent, most Robert Ludlum books have much, much worse things happen in them than what fucking happens in that one scene that you don't even need to watch and play. Isn't Modern Warfare 2 also where they knock over the Eiffel Tower? Modern Warfare 3, sorry.
Yes, that you blow up. I think they blow up part of the Eiffel Tower and it falls over. I think you do that.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You just get to watch. No, you don't do it. It does happen, but it's not you, the cause.
That's less fun. But that's much worse than a chemical bomb in London. Like, the Eiffel Tower is like one of the most well-known landmarks in the world.
But the Eiffel Tower was also destroyed by the guys that made the last G.I. Joe movie as well, so it's not that big.
Not the last G.I. Joe movie.
Well, the first G.I. Joe movie is even worse.
Yeah. The last one was the one that had Ray Stevenson in it.
He needs to be in a Call of Duty game.
I'm pretty sure his life is Call of Duty.
Yeah. But game-wise, Modern Warfare 3 had a couple of controversial bits about it. Most notably, do you remember Call of Duty Elite?
Oh, God. The pay subscription that was like, you had to spend 80 quid to buy the Elite edition. Or was it 80 or was it 100?
No. The Elite COD Elite subscription was the online stat tracking and DLC package.
Oh, yes.
This was basically the season pass before the season pass was really a thing. Back
when companies were releasing season passes and calling them interesting names because they thought the idea season pass was a bit shit.
But this was about the point, and this is, I think, is also kind of half the problem with Modern Warfare 3 and how it performed and how people view it, is because Activision went, we can monetize the shit out of this. So we're going to charge people for fucking stat tracking.
Yeah, and that was when Battlefield Battle Log really showed up.
Yeah.
And people really moved into the Battlefield for our family because of Battle Log being free. It was like, and it was much better stat tracking at that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But Raven Software came back for this one to do multiplayer. So they were at this point, that's the second year in a row that they've done the work for multiplayer and multiplayer content. So pretty much now they're just Call of Duty developers, whether you like it or not. And so after that we got to, roll on 2012. Treyarch have got another one, and Treyarch bring out Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2, I don't know how you feel about this one. I didn't mind
play
it. You didn't play it?
Didn't play it.
Okay. So Black Ops 2, it was kind of, it had done a couple of interesting things. It split the time in between the end of the Cold War, so late 80s, and the new Cold War, which is their made-up one, which is 2025. So in the old Cold War, you still play as Alex Mason, although if I remember rightly, you're very quickly killed off as Alex Mason. And then in 2025, you play David Mason, Alex's son, who is now a Navy SEAL, a nice futuristic Navy SEAL. Now this was Call of Duty's first kind of jump into sci-fi, as it was. Obviously not with the old Cold War stuff, but with the new Cold War stuff, you had some futuristic weapons, weird, wingsuiting made an appearance. things like that. But what it also done, and this was the first of Call of Duty, it had like player options, branching storylines, and you could affect the game by doing different things. You could affect how the story played out by doing different things, which for what until this point was just a corridor shooter, that is impressive. It done rather well. It wasn't particularly groundbreaking. Games have been doing it for a long time, and the way Call of Duty did it didn't really feel that special. It did have some fun bits to it. You could choose to snipe somebody from a building, or get down and be the boots on the ground and get an assault rifle in there. You could play around a little bit. It wasn't that big a deal, but it was a little bit of fun. But what it also did, what Treyarch brought into this, which has kind of become a regular thing now for these games, not the next one, but from then on, you kind of had almost like a pre-mission HUD, so you could choose your weapons before so you could choose your weapons before you start a mission. So you basically set yourself a loadout before you go, which is good, because if you found a gun that you like or a gun that you're good with, doesn't necessarily mean, it can sometimes be better than the gun that the game thinks you need for this part of the story, And if you do nothing but carry fucking pistols with you, but you still get to a bit where you need to be a sniper, the sniper rifle will always be there, or the way to get the sniper rifle will always be there. So it doesn't break the game by giving you the choice, but it does make you feel like you've got a choice and you're a little bit in control. And I quite liked that. As stories go, it was alright, it was okay. My problem with Black Ops 2 is I don't remember it that well. And considering it's only a few years ago, and I can, like I've said before, I can reel off massive sections of Call of Duty 4 without a problem. Black Ops 2, while it was fun, 6 months later I'd forgotten almost everything about it, which is a problem, with a campaign.
Well, I didn't pick it up on the grounds that it was futuristic shooter. Now,
okay.
I'm not a future shooter fan. I'm an Xbox player and I don't like Halo, which just seems like a ridiculous thing to say, obviously. But it's future shooters that's what I don't like, and it's why I don't like Halo, for instance. It's when it was marketed, Black Ops 2, I was like, oh yeah, alright, I might pick that up. Kind of liked Black Ops 1, thought it was quite amusing, quite interesting. I'd be really interested to see where it goes. Yeah. And then I see that trailer where the dude's got a sniper rifle that can see through walls.
It's quite good. I quite like that weapon.
It seems, and I saw that and I was like, what? Why is this a thing? Why do I need to be able to a gun that I can see through walls? Not just like regular walls, but this is like a strut holding a bridge up type, massive, thick, 4 meters worth of concrete wall, and I can see through it, and I can shoot him through it.
Yeah, no, I know the weapon you're talking about.
Why is that a thing? Why do I possibly need to have a gun capable of doing that when I could probably walk 10 feet to the right and just shoot him regularly anyway? It's like, this is Call of Duty. It's not like the ultimate stealth game where you need to kill people without moving, and that way, because you're not moving, means that they can't see you moving, so therefore they don't know you're there. You're firing a gun that can shoot through 4 meters worth of concrete.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fucking loud. Or it's apparently a laser or something.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. I have to admit, I didn't have that issue with it. I was quite looking forward to playing Black Ops 2 just because of how much I enjoyed the first one. It wasn't a patch on number 1. It really wasn't. I mean, I kind of went through, like I said, I went through the Wikipedia articles and things to see if there's anything big or special about this game, and there wasn't really. It had these Strike Force missions that could affect the story, but you didn't have to play them. You could skip through them completely. So, them being there wasn't a big deal or not. They weren't much fun when you played them, but you had control. You played a guy that had control over bots and drones, things, and almost like tower defense type thing. It was again like
was
most
it like
things,
Assassin's Creed's tower defense?
No, it was nothing like Assassin's Creed. That was nice, but like the rest of Black Ops 2, it was just forgettable. And I like my games to be memorable, and okay, I don't expect your game to be memorable every year. By this point, we've had a game every year for like 10 years, and most of them I enjoyed and remember. So for you to have one that was a bit forgettable, I can forgive that. But sadly, for the most part, it's kind of downhill from here for me. It is a little bit, not completely, but a little bit. It's downhill from here for me. I mean, it did have some good things. Most importantly, David Goyer was back writing. A guy called Jack Wall done the music for it, who also done the music for Mass Effect 1 and 2, and he also came back for the music for Black Ops 3. Michael Keaton, Michael Rooker, and Tony Todd all roll in to do voice acting. So, Treyarch tried, and I don't know how other people feel about it, but for me, it wasn't shit. I don't remember it, and I kind of feel the need to play it again just to see if I remember it being any good. But then, so that was 2012, and from there we go on to probably the most widely battered Call of Duty yet. And that was the first cross-generation for this generation anyway, Call of Duty, and that was Infinity Ward's Ghosts. Now, I know you played Ghosts.
Yes. Ghosts was free with my... there was something on my Xbox One that made it free, and I can't remember what it was.
I believe it was a launch title for Xbox One and PS4. So did you get it as part of your bundle when you bought your Xbox One?
I think so.
Because I'm pretty sure I got it as part of my bundle when I bought my PS4.
And as... At a random point in the future, it was patched so that it became, if you got, doesn't matter which version that you got, but it was patched and it updated Ghosts to the Gold Edition, which was the expensive one that came with all the extra bells and whistles for a Call of Duty game. That if you paid the extra 30 quid, you got like gun skins and stuff. So later on, they made it so that it was completely free to get all of the extra cool stuff. But
very nice.
Ghosts was possibly the most forgettable Call of Duty game I've ever played.
Yeah, so I think I've played Ghosts twice. I think I played it on the PS3, and then I played it when I bought my PS4. I mean, which doesn't say much, because there wasn't much out that I wanted to play on the PS4 when it came out, but I did very quickly become a big Shadowfall fan afterwards, so, Ghost wasn't high on my priority list, but I remember at the time, it got a lot of negative feedback, and I believe, a lot of it was over the multiplayer, and, like I said a dozen times so far on this podcast, I didn't play it for the multiplayer, so I didn't know if it was good or bad or, indifferent. I just didn't play it. But story-wise, I at least remember some of it, which is more than I can say for Black Ops 2. And that's not to say it's better than Black Ops 2. It's just to say that there was something about it that stuck. But it had a near future, like a very near future alternate timeline setting. So it was released in 2013. It was set in 2017. And it was set in a time where we had nuked the Middle East.
Yeah.
Remembering, of course, that we are recording this on an election night that could end in Donald Trump being the president, and Middle East being nuked in time for 2017 is not that far off.
Well, it's just Middle East being nuked in time for the podcast going fucking live.
So, yeah. So we're talking about nuked Middle East, and now South American countries have become superpowers because they have oil. I believe that's what it is. And through doing that, these South American countries, most notably Venezuela, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's what it is. Kind of take it upon themselves to start rattling their saber a little bit. How they do that, they do things like take over sci-fi stuff like orbital defense platforms that just drop bombs into the Earth from space.
Kinetic bombardment, apparently, is what it's called.
Yeah, well, isn't it? They're powered by the Earth's gravitational pull.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Which all sounds very sciencey and good, but in reality, I don't know if it works. I don't know how that works. I don't need to know how that works. And basically, you play a ghost, so you're basically a squad of gazes from Modern Warfare 2. You're just a US Special Ops team. Your particular team are called the Ghosts because you survived the battle once, and big spooky stories surrounding the ghosts, and it really doesn't fucking matter because it all turns out really that it's a revenge story about somebody that used to be a ghost and isn't anymore.
And then he kills your dad, who is Stephen Lang, playing Stephen Lang.
Well, Stephen Lang plays Stephen Lang in everything. Anyone that's seen Avatar or more recently Don't Breathe can attest to that. Written by Stephen Gagan, who wrote Traffic, which, I mean, I didn't really like Traffic, but this is a massive fucking step down from Traffic.
Well, I'll give you one name that will show just how bad this game really is.
Go on.
The brother of your character. So Stephen Lang's your dad, and it's you play.
Your brother's Brandon Routh.
Yep.
Yeah, the guy that's fucking Superman and what's his face in Legends of Tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Possibly the most bang average actors in the world.
But Call of Ghosts, Call of
Call of
Duty
Ghosts.
Ghosts, Call of Duty Ghosts had one redeeming feature for me.
Riley?
Riley the dog.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Riley the dog was fucking awesome. And I loved him. And I was, there were missions where he gets hurt and you have to carry him around. And I was like, no, don't die. You can't die.
Pretty sure that one mission probably upset your dog because the fucking dog whining on the TV.
Oh, it did. My dog doesn't like other dogs being in pain. And the dog whining on the TV, she sat next to me shivering, making sure that everything was okay. Yeah, my dog didn't like that one little bit. It goes into a long list of games that I just couldn't play when the dog was around, or had to put earphones in, a headset on because she couldn't do it. But no, Riley the dog I thought was awesome, and controlling Riley the dog, it was a stupid fucking gimmick. And like I say, it was the Call of Duty gimmick for that year, was to just have Riley the dog. But I fucking loved him. I thought Riley was great.
I don't. That game was so bad. I can't. Apart from what I've learned on looking at the Wikipedia entry for it, when playing it, it felt like you're in this area shooting this, and then you move to this area to shoot this, and then you're all over the fucking world doing all kinds of crap, and it just it doesn't make a completely nonsensical story that really is ridiculous, and it had a cliffhanger ending.
Yes, it had a cliffhanger ending. I'm guessing that someone was hoping it was going to do really well, and it was going to be the next Modern Warfare, by which I mean have 2 or 3 sequels. Unfortunately, it wasn't received well at all, and like I say, I do think the multiplayer was a big part of that.
Well, the multiplayers introduced kill streaks that weren't kill streaks; it was score streaks.
Was that in Ghosts?
I'm pretty sure it was in Ghosts that they introduced score streaks.
Okay.
So it was I'm pretty sure that it was they went out of their way. No, it may have been Advanced.
I don't know. I think Score Streaks was Black Ops 2.
No, I don't think it was Black Ops 2. I don't know enough. It's like,
I barely I didn't pay much attention to multiplayer marketing when they came out, so I'm not 100% up on it. But I'm almost certain
it might have been because Black Ops 2 had kill confirmed, didn't it?
Yep.
So yeah, it might have been.
It meant you could get kill streaks without and still be shit at the game.
Well, maybe not shit at the game, but you didn't. If you were like me, you weren't playing for the kills. You were playing to play the objective.
Yeah.
Because I'm that kind of player. I'm playing domination. I'm going to capture flags.
Yeah.
Or I'm playing search and destroy. I'm gonna blow up the bomb.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not doing it to get the ridiculous number of kill cams at the end with a fucking quick scope, no scope battle, jumping, doing a 360 off of a fucking tower.
So the largely forgettable Ghosts, I do get the feeling actually that to call it churned out would be mean, but I do think it was churned out. I think it was rushed out to be a launch title for the new machines, and I think that's probably what hurt it more than anything. But there was kind of like this glimmer of hope, and I know not everybody agrees with me when it comes to this, but the following year we got Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Play Advanced Warfare.
No.
Advanced Warfare was fucking great.
I'll tell you what, you could name any Call of Duty game now from the rest and up until this year's one, and I'll just say no, I didn't play it.
Well, luckily after Advanced Warfare, there's only one until this year's one. So Advanced Warfare, a full-on future set in 2054, not an Infinity Ward game, and not a Treyarch game.
Oh, this was the extra studio they brought in so they could do 3 different titles.
Well, this is
so it wasn't Burnout.
This is Sledgehammer Games made this. Now, Sledgehammer Games co-devved Modern Warfare 3 with Infinity Ward. So now Sledgehammer Games have been handed the reins and been given their own Call of Duty game to make. Now, I believe, technically, canonically, Advanced Warfare is a sequel or is in the same universe as the Modern Warfare games. I believe.
All right.
But it's Modern Warfare 3 is set in 2017 and this is set in 2054. So there's 40 something, 30 something years gap.
Okay.
But I believe it's set in the same universe.
So it's like the World at War to Black Ops 1.
Yeah, pretty much. But this was where things started changing, not necessarily for the better in the eyes of a lot of people, because of course this was also the year Titanfall came out. I believe, if I've got my dates and months right, I believe Titanfall came out February or March 2014, and
yeah, I'd certainly say it's around then.
I believe that's when it came out. I might be wrong, but then November 2014, Advanced Warfare came out and had exosuits, which Yeah, it had
They're not
exosuits.
Titans.
They're not Titans, but they do have some of the abilities of the pilots. You know, double jumping, bit of wall running, customizable dependent on what you want to do in that particular mission. An interesting add-on to the standard Call of Duty model, an interesting way to change it up a little bit. I didn't mind it when it finally let go of your hand and let you just play the way you thought you could play. It was a lot of fun. It does hold your hand a lot because it's Call of Duty. The game holds your hand a lot. A very out of the headline story again. You know, this time it's PMCs trying to start wars to keep themselves relevant, which
That's believable.
It's very believable. Made even more believable by Kevin Spacey playing the lead bad guy, who was just outstanding in it. I really enjoyed him in this.
I fucking forgot it was Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, the big thing about this one, and even if you haven't played it, you must have seen this, is that after the first mission, your buddy's killed, and you go to his funeral, and you went on a console, and you're like, press X to pay respects. This fucking thing has been memed to death since this fucking game came out. It is the single stupidest thing. And you'd have thought they'd have learned, because a couple of years previous, Medal of Honor done something very similar, and it was utter dog shit. And it just fell completely flat. You know, it didn't get the emotional pull that people were expecting from it. It was just guff. And it was just so rubbish and so stupid and just so fucking Call of Duty. But it wasn't a bad game. Outside of that, it was actually a lot of fun. The exosuit made you feel powerful, but not overpowerful, because other people had them as well. You know, it had a lot of new tech, so grenades that would target people instead of just hopefully landing near someone so it would blow them up. You know, it had like seeker type things that you'd lob a grenade and it would highlight enemies in cover, so you wouldn't have to guess where they were, because obviously at this point AI is at a point where these things don't just stop and shoot at you. They move around and they try and flank you and shit. And Advanced Warfare was a really good game. I genuinely didn't understand the hate it got. Obviously, adding exosuits and their abilities into the multiplayer changed up everything. You know, that's not just a slight change. That's a massive evolution to a set multiplayer that I understand a lot of people really wouldn't have liked. But certainly as far as story goes, Advanced Warfare was tons of fun, and if you ever see it going cheap, fucking CEX or something, it's worth a few quid to pick up and have a play.
I was going to say, wait for it to go Games with Gold, but it's an Activision title and they're very anti-Microsoft at the moment.
Well, it's a Call of Duty title, will never be for free for anyone.
No. Well, it might go... No. Ghost went free, but that was also the last... Ghost was the last, Call of Duty to go do anything on Xbox that was ahead of PlayStation.
Yeah. No, I think Advanced Warfare got the early stuff with Xbox. I think the Sony deal started with Black Ops 3. I believe that's how it worked. I may be wrong. But again, I'm losing count of the amount of times I said it was all multiplayer stuff, so it didn't affect or bother me. So I never really looked that deep into it. But I would definitely say, if you get a chance, Advanced Warfare was a lot of fun. I really liked it. It was Call of Duty. It was short. It was sweet. It was fun. Big set pieces and lots of dumb fun moments.
Certainly better than the next game in the franchise.
I don't want to talk about Black Ops 3.
Then let's skip it and move on to the next.
Well, actually, I mean, it's a couple of quick points with Advanced Warfare before we move on. So, and this will probably be the last time I say, because I think they're just on permanent duty with them now. But Raven Software again done multiplayer stuff. But the developer High Noon Studios, made Transformers, I believe.
Yeah.
They were the guys that done the 360 and PS3 ports for Advanced Warfare. This was Activision and Call of Duty as a whole. This was the start to moving away from the old generation of consoles, which was understandable, because there was a lot of things that went on in Advanced Warfare that needed the power of the newer consoles for. And the older consoles, just while they seemed to handle it well, it must have been such a bad experience compared to the newer machine. I know that kind of goes without saying, but Advanced Warfare was advanced. The engine wasn't particularly. The engine was always going to look okay because it's been the same engine for a decade. The game itself and what it had to do, that must have had some pretty warm PlayStation 3s by the end of that. But that takes us to last year's entry, and the last one that we're quickly going to gloss over, and that's Black Ops 3.
Thank fuck didn't play this one either.
I'm not going to rattle off numbers because that would be a level of boring that I don't want to do. But we asked people about Call of Duty on social media again, and someone brought this up as well. So this year's Call of Duty sold in its first week half of what Black Ops 3 sold, and I cannot, for the life of me, figure out why Black Ops 3 sold well. It was terrible, just terrible. The single player for this game, it took 12 years for this to happen, but it just felt soulless. There was nothing about Black Ops 3 that was redeeming story-wise. It wasn't fun to play. It was basically, for the most part, this never-ending stream of shit Terminators coming at you that you just had to kill and move on. And I understand how that sounds, and I understand that all Call of Duties are basically corridor shooters. You kill everything and move on. But there was just something about Black Ops 3. The only word I can use to describe it is soulless. I got to about the halfway point of Black Ops 3 and cared so little about what was going on. I started a game, I started a mission, I dropped the difficulty down to easy and literally just ran through with my finger on the trigger as much as I could just so I could see the end of this
just
game.
To make it stop.
just because I don't like not finishing things if it's doable to finish, and to not finish a 6-hour game that you're already halfway through is stupid. And the fact that I fucking paid for it, so may as well finish it. So I did. But somehow it managed to get worse as well when I'd done that. Towards the end, and this felt like this kind of desperation move on the part of the developers. So there's one section towards the end of the game where you start tripping, and now you're fighting Nazi zombies in the campaign. And all I could think while I was playing this just seems like Treyarch desperately screaming, please don't forget about us and our zombies. We're still here, and so is zombies. Come and have some fun playing zombies. And I was bored and annoyed that zombies was in my now completely futuristic game, because this one was set in 2065. 40 years after Black Ops 2's futuristic bits. So we're full on futuristic now. And aside from that, the story was a bit shit. I don't understand, I certainly don't know, I don't remember if the story actually had anything to do with Black Ops 1 and 2. I don't know, I don't remember. I don't think it did. I don't think David Mason was in it, but I can't remember if David Mason makes it to the end of Black Ops 2, because like I say, that was pretty forgettable all on its own. But bland, soulless, I forget. I mean, I'd done the same, like I said, Ghost is probably the worst entry Call of Duty in quite a while, and didn't really like it. And then I played Black Ops 3 and I forgave Ghosts almost everything, because I didn't like it. It was shite. Absolute waste of time, waste of money. And I had to justify spending money this year to myself after that. I've bought, since 4, I think I've bought every Call of Duty on release day. And I've always played them, apart from Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3, I've always come out being able to remember stuff that happened and enjoy myself. But I got to the end of Black Ops 3 and I went, I genuinely think I might be done with Call of Duty. And I literally, up until maybe 2 weeks before Infinite Warfare came out, I was still of that mind, not sure I want to buy it. Of course I did, which gladly moves us on from the worst Call of Duty game to come out to actually what I thought was a really good one, and that was this year's Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, developed by Infinity Ward back at the reins.
Infinity Ward with Infinite Warfare.
Yeah. Also, to mention very quickly with Black Ops 3, it did have a port to the old console, so PS3 and Xbox 360, but the multiplayer only. So if you only had a 360 or a PS3, you could only play the multiplayer, you couldn't play the campaign. So you got off light. So anyway, so Infinite Warfare, the first only current gen of this generation of consoles. So it's only out on Xbox One, PS4 and the PC. Infinity Ward back at the reins, like I said. And a whole new story. And this one you played, didn't you?
Yes.
What did you think?
I picked it up because I don't know why I picked it up in the end. I think it was just it was sheer boredom and the fact that we were doing this episode on Call of Duty, so I thought I need to play the new one, otherwise it's going to be you talking for 4 hours with me barely throwing a word in every so often. So I thought, fuck it, I'll pick it up, and I played it. I enjoyed the story. I won't touch the multiplayer probably because I played it once at EGX and probably that's enough. The multiplayer didn't entice me in the way that any other shooter multiplayer has. But as far as it goes, the story was... I'll admit I don't remember much of the actual story itself now, even though I only played it on Saturday. But the game itself was really well done, considering it played like slow Titanfall.
Yeah.
So you've got the wall running, you've got the boost jumping, and you've got the boost sliding. All things that are in Titanfall, but Titanfall seems to do it with... if this game came out first, and then you played Titanfall afterwards, you would say that Titanfall was Infinite Warfare on speed. But it's not that way around, it's the other way, and Titanfall came first, and this game feels like slow Titanfall, which... is as bad an insult as you can give a game that is essentially slow Titanfall. But playing through it and meeting some of the characters, Staff Sergeant Omar, played by David Harewood, looks like David Harewood, like hauntingly like David Harewood.
Yeah, see, David Harewood's no stranger to video games. He was actually your commanding officer in Killzone 4.
Yeah.
And looked like David Harewood, which was, a bit scary.
Yeah, and the robot sidekick, Ethan, who was brilliant bit of comic relief, I think. Some of his interactions with the other characters, and the way that they warmed to him as a character, especially right from the start when they meet him, they're all a bit wary of him, and then it's like they all really just take to him after like a couple of missions.
Yeah.
Just after a couple of things that he does and says.
No, I really... Ethan, I thought as a character was very, very cool. And I would like to see more of that should the Infinite Warfare story continue.
Infinite Warfare 2.
If they keep the way they're going, it won't be for 3 years. In 3 years' time, Infinite Warfare 2, I would take that, assuming they haven't fucked it completely in the 2 years between them.
Well, the ending to this one isn't... It's more like Modern Warfare 1's ending, where it's an ending that you can finish the game... You can finish a franchise with. Well, not even a franchise.
Oh, yeah,
you
for
can
sure.
Finish. It's not like Ghost's ending, where it's clearly a sequel coming that then never happens. Or it's not Modern Warfare 2's ending, where it's a sequel that probably shouldn't have happened in the end after the disappointment that it was. But this is an ending which was an ending to the story.
For sure, it was...
Well,
I think they learned with Ghosts that you can't assume that you're going to get a sequel just because you're Infinity Ward and you're Call of Duty. We'll probably never get the sequel that's been teased for Ghosts, but...
You never know. The Sledgehammer might make it.
But what you get with Infinite Warfare... If I call this fucking game Infinity War one more time, I'm going to lose my shit.
Do it. Infinity War.
No. So if they, obviously without spoiling it, because I don't want to spoil Infinite Warfare, because that would be unfair considering it's only been out a few days. But it does end in such a way that there's no cliffhanger. The story's wrapped up nicely. If they want to do another story or another, a follow-on, they can. But there's no cliffhanger. There's no what's going to happen next. It's wrapped up and done. So if they want to do something else, fine. I wouldn't say no to an Infinite Warfare 2. But
yeah, I'd accept an Infinite Warfare 2. There's some things in the game, so no spoilers whatsoever, that were a little after a few of the scenes, especially towards the later stages. I was kind of going, I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
But as far as it goes, how many missions was the story? Like 5. And then it was that there was all of the side quests.
Yes, so the game, it does that lovely thing where it gives you an option of doing a few side quests, and having it as an option I think is great, because I've done 1 or 2. They're split into 2 types. They're split into the kind of ship invasion things, and space combat.
Yeah,
and space shenanigans were awesome.
Yeah, space shenanigans were fun.
I really, really enjoyed it. And they Call of Duty-fied it, of course they did, which meant, they were very basic. And you fly around, you lock on, you shoot, and you're done. But they were tons and tons of fun. And I really, really liked them. It added an extra layer to Call of Duty that I think it needed, something a little bit fresh. I thought it was excellently done. I thought the story actually was impressive. Again, it was people have colonized, we've colonized other planets because we've drained Earth of resources. But
and then the colonies then turn their back.
But certain factions don't like that we're doing that, or certain factions don't like that they're being controlled by Earth.
Yeah, it's essentially the American.
It's basically Modern Warfare's story of the Russians wanting to be great again, but instead of Russians this time it's people on Mars.
It's basically American Revolution, except you are the British side of it.
Yeah.
So, fuck you Americans, thinking you're all high and mighty with your independence. Now you're fighting for the other side in this game, and independence is a bad thing.
It was interesting, though. It was. I didn't find myself bored. I didn't think at any point that the story was sagging or it was being dragged out. I thought it was sharp and well done. It was well acted. You know, it's got a half-decent cast. Like you say, David Harewood in it. Kit Harington.
I was disappointed by Kit Harington.
It's Jon Snow. I don't know why people think this guy's a good actor, because he's really not. I've seen him in a few things that aren't Game of Thrones, and he sucks.
I've seen one film with him in that what is obviously not Game of Thrones, and that's Spooks, and I've seen the advert for Pompeii and just went nope.
Yeah, exactly. Just hell no. He can't act. He's gotten very lucky with Game of Thrones.
He's very lucky with Game of Thrones in that he's playing a character that is essentially completely pan-faced. There's nothing to him.
But much like Aaron Paul before him, who can only really play Jesse from Breaking Bad, and if he veers too much from that, he's just shit. I don't rate Kit Harington at all, really, as an actor, but I thought he'd done okay here.
Considering his acting in this was almost entirely voice work, and he was given a voice script, he was given a script that was completely deadpan.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it apart from the fact that you are man in military trying to blow up the Earth.
Yeah,
there isn't really much to go from that.
I mean, you can easily fuck it up. I just think he done okay. I don't think he fucked it up at all. I think he was alright. But and fucking Conor McGregor's in it. And
his little fucking cameo as the fill-in.
Lewis Hamilton's in it.
I never bumped into Lewis Hamilton's character. If it wasn't for the fact that I like Formula 1 and the constant fucking tweeting that there's been going on regarding it from Formula 1 pages about Lewis Hamilton's existence. And one of my friends, who we will probably mention a bit later on when we go into talking about people in the real world, wanting to their little claim to fame being mentioned on our podcast, is a massive anti-Hamilton fan. Yeah. He fucking hates Hamilton to the point where he's joined a Facebook group that is anti-Hamilton memes and all kinds of crap.
Wow.
It's hilarious just how much he hates Lewis Hamilton.
Fair enough.
He spent ages just like berating his existence in the Call of Duty world.
Fair enough.
But I never bumped into the character, so if it wasn't for my mate mentioning it and being a Formula 1 fan, I wouldn't have known he was even in it.
Up as additional voices, so I don't remember coming across any of his stuff, but Craig Fairbrass is back for this one. So.
He's probably playing a guy called something beginning with G, something witty.
Yeah, Greg. His name's Greg.
That'll do. Greg, and he's the chef selling sausage rolls in the canteen.
Exactly. But
and pasties and steak bakes.
I played. You say you didn't play the multiplayer for it?
No, I didn't touch the multiplayer for it.
I played for a little while, not for long. I jumped in, sucked at free-for-all, sucked at Team Deathmatch, and had some fun on Kill Confirmed because it's a slightly slower game mode. Then turned it off and went and played Modern Warfare Remastered. But overall, and the internet's a shit place if you're a Call of Duty fan anyway. You go onto Facebook and look at anybody that mentions, or certainly any company that mentions Call of Duty, and the comments will just be filled with arseholes calling it the worst one ever, and this one's no different. So many people hate it. I don't get the hate. I've really quite enjoyed this one. It definitely. I'm not going to swear off of Call of Duty like I almost did last year with Black Ops 3. You know, next year's one I'll give a chance to. I won't have to think about it. I'll just go, yeah, I'll give it a go. Not a bad game at all. Certainly not as far as I'm.
Beyond that, there's the Zombies in Spaceland. And there's a fuck ton of achievements for Spaceland.
Okay. I haven't tried the zombies for this one yet. I bought this one digitally, so it's currently installed on my Xbox. So I might give it a bash at some point because it's there.
Yeah, the first map that's in Spaceland it's an 80s movie style theme park.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the four characters are basically Seth Green and SNL type actors.
Fair enough.
Playing, well, 80s archetype, just generic spoof characters of 1980s wannabe actors.
Fair enough.
Trapped inside a horror film, basically. But David Hasselhoff is also in it as a voice.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Exactly. That's what I knew that would get you excited.
Got to get to play as the Hoff.
Oh, you don't play as a Hoff. He's just the DJ.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
He's the theme park DJ.
Jeez. I think that brings our Call of Duty chat to an end, mate. Should we move on to thoughts from other people's?
Did we get any thoughts from other people?
We got a couple. We got an email, actually. Matt Lamborn emailed me.
Because it wasn't enough in a tweet.
No, it wasn't. But we also got a couple of responses on Facebook when I asked. If you dig into the Facebook, so we asked people what their favourite, did they still play COD, their favourite COD, do they not play it? What do we get on the Facebook?
On Facebook, we got from our mutual buddy Lee,
okay,
who says that he never really enjoyed any of them, played a few though. Most memorable was Modern Warfare, mainly because I played one multiplayer match and got a great KD and never played it again.
Fair enough.
Which, fair play to the chap. It's like it is the multiplayer for Modern Warfare. Well, any Call of Duty game is that you can play one game. If you're good at it, you then make the decision: do you keep playing it, see how good you really are, or you've played it once? It's that you don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah,
it's just generic on ice skates shooter. There are other better shooters out there, multiplayer-wise. I've been talking about Call of Duty for hours, but and the multiplayer aspect being the main draw, but there are better shooters.
Yeah, no, I was never the multiplayer type for Call of Duty, so I understand that completely.
On Facebook, message from that guy Tony, who we spoke to.
It's our buddy Tony Black.
Yeah. Just that guy.
That guy. Okay.
So, I think I bought one of them years ago, but I swiftly became bored. I'd say war games aren't my thing, but I lapped up loads of Medal of Honor games, so don't know.
Fair enough. Medal of Honor hasn't been Medal of Honor for a long time though, so I mean I'm guessing he's talking about the original.
Yeah, I'm thinking Allied Assault, Rising Sun, not European Assault, and the 2010. Yeah. Although 2010 was fantastic.
See, I love 2010, but I also loved Warfighter, so my judgment is clearly skewed. But
nobody liked Warfighter.
No. But I can understand, liking Medal of Honor, but not really getting on with Call of Duty. That's pretty standard. Yeah. Okay
Matt Lamborn posted on the Facebook a quick mention. Most fun playing Black Ops and Modern Warfare 2. Experience is almost exclusively multiplayer. He went to the midnight launch for Modern Warfare 2, and apparently every midnight launch he's been to since then has been a bit shit.
Yeah.
That's paraphrased because he emailed, so I'm assuming he probably mentions that in the email somewhere.
I don't think he does, but it's kind of like what I said earlier, though, wasn't it? It was Modern Warfare 2 was a fucking monster. Nothing matched it after that.
Modern Warfare 2 was the yardstick. It was the game of all games in Call of Duty, and they will never make it again. Even, you know what, if Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 actually gets a remaster, I still think that it will suffer and it won't be played like the original.
Fair enough.
Which is probably a bad thing, actually. Yeah. Well, if they couldn't sell this one with the new one for 60 quid, which is what, maybe £5. 60 quid is £10 more than what the standard Call of Duty price is.
Yeah.
At launch. So what, you're paying a tenner to get Modern Warfare 1 back remastered to play again, and for some reason no one's picked it up.
That's fair enough.
And my buddy Nate says, I will give them the fact that they make absolutely killer campaigns in their games. They have always been amazing. Its multiplayer, in my opinion, went downhill during the Black Ops 1 and future games. In fact, Black Ops 1 was the last I played, I believe.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Hasn't really followed with the times at all. They have kept most of the multiplayer the same, just adding new weapons or new power-ups. If they tried a different angle, I may well be interested. However, they saw Titanfall and thought, yeah, cool, we'll steal all of that. So, Yeah, he kind of sees my point of the new one is essentially slow Titanfall.
Yeah, but I think
And
this was something that came up with Advanced Warfare as well, because obviously Advanced Warfare, like I said earlier, was released same year as Titanfall, and they had double jumping and slight wall running. We had definitely with Black Ops 3. I can't remember if we had it with Advanced Warfare. I honestly can't remember. But we definitely Titanfall and Advanced Warfare coming out the same year was poor timing on Call of Duty's part, especially because they should have known that was fucking coming. But yeah, no, I see his point. So we got an email from our buddy Matt Lamborn, good friend of the show, Matt Lamborn. Basically a quick Infinite Warfare review, which was very interesting actually. So I think I'm gonna do all of it. It shouldn't take me too long. So he said, I've tried my hardest not to let the anti-hype cloud my judgment pre-launch for Infinite Warfare. My initial reaction to the reveal was, what the fuck? Why is this series that I love? That is vested and born out of the real conflicts of mankind's greatest modern wars, now taking things into space. I'm not a sci-fi shooter kind of guy. I don't like Halo or Crysis or games of that ilk. That said, I'm not one of these boots on the ground or World War II fanboys either. I loved Modern Warfare 1 and 2, and I surprisingly adored Black Ops 3. It was the right blend of the adventurous futurism that Advanced Warfare shot for, but ultimately overstepped the mark. For me, Infinite Warfare undoes all the good repair work by Black Ops 3, and returns to being self-indulgent and betrays what makes the series so popular. I'm mostly a multiplayer gamer, but I've grinded out the campaign in one day, thoroughly enjoyed the gameplay. The mix of FPS and space vehicular combat is very well executed, although it felt nearly impossible to die in space. Yeah, I'll agree with that. For once I actually find myself at odds with the story. It was weak and entirely brief. I barely remember anything happening, and before I knew it, I was at the end without a whole lot happening plot-wise. But the action delivers, and that is despite a highly confusing inventory, so many grenade variants, and the weapons that are at times unsatisfying. But like any COD, it has epic set pieces, great voice acting, and a good villain in Salen Koch. I'm sure anyone who liked old campaigns will find this plenty satisfying. However, the multiplayer is a shambles. It's the mode that keeps the game alive beyond the first weekend, and how Activision makes their money as they delude kids out of their pocket money to buy random crates of goodies. Yes, the pay-to-win model is alive and well in Infinite Warfare. The time to kill is all sorts of lunacy, whereby normal TDM feels like hardcore and you die constantly as soon as you're spotted, not to mention the classic issue of shoot first, die first, being a massive barrier to enjoyment here. Maps are subjectively terrible, weapons uninteresting and confusing, lethal grenades don't appear to be at all dangerous, and spawning too near the action remains a massive detractor for this series. Also, as an aside, it seems that Activision, in their infinite wisdom, have released the PC version on both Steam and Windows Store that segregated both markets, thereby cutting an already limited player base in half. So if you've gone PC expecting the elite COD experience, you'll be playing predominantly TDM forevermore. I can't help but feel that Activision's attempts to out-future the departing Respawn Entertainment, they've actually removed any likability, nostalgia or brand loyalty people had towards Call of Duty, which is backed up by all the YouTube anti-hype and the terrible sales stats, down 50% on launch weekend of Black Ops 3. The next COD has to be a return to what made the series great, a fast-paced, skill-based modern warfare Black Ops game, whilst taking what they learnt about advanced movement but toning it down for a modern reality, dives, slides, etc., but no boost jumps. He finishes off telling us COD has one life remaining before it is dishonourably discharged. Here's hoping they go back to basics and come back for the big win. Yeah, I think I agree with maybe 50% of this. Like I've already said, I didn't like Black Ops 3, and I enjoyed Infinite Warfare a lot, and I think me and Matt possibly literally are at opposite ends of the scale for those two games. I do think he has a lot of good points. I read about the PC, the Steam Windows 10 app thing, or Windows Store thing, this week and thought it was fucking lunacy. I can't imagine anybody having a decent business reason for that. Absolute fucking ridiculousness.
That's the first I'm hearing about that. I didn't realise that it was released on PC in general. Just like putting that out there. But
oh no, it definitely came out on PC, but it's got a separate release between Steam and Windows.
That's fucking stupid. It's like, what are they gonna? Are Activision planning their own platform?
No, I doubt it.
Because
they haven't.
They don't have enough games.
No, they haven't got the market for it.
It's not like EA,
COD,
which have Origin, and even Ubisoft have Uplay or whatever they call it now.
Yeah,
but even that suffers.
I do think he's got a point in a lot of it. I think the Titanfall Infinite Warfare thing, I'm still playing Titanfall 2, I do think Titanfall 2 is the superior game, but I'm saving that for the next show because I want to finish it first. And I have a lot to say about Titanfall 2 because it is fucking outstanding. Yeah, I do.
I'm with Matt on the story. It is largely forgettable now that I finished it, and I remember a couple of of things that happen, and those are the things that will stick with me for a little while because they're things that I kind of, after seeing it happen, you look back. You didn't want it to happen at the time,
No.
but it's absolutely typical. Oh, I don't want this to happen, so Call of Duty's going to make it happen. Thinking back on it, every other Call of Duty game has had moments where it's the helicopter in Modern Warfare 1 with the nuke.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that's like, oh fuck, that's not what I was expecting. It's not really where I really wanted the story to go.
No.
The mission, I think it's like the third mission, actual mission, the third out of the 4 or 5, where you are on the Mercury.
Yep.
Yep, you're on Mercury, and it's the robot army that you're shooting away.
Yeah.
That the end of that was I didn't enjoy the end of that mission, so no spoilers for anyone.
No.
And I agree with Matt's idea that the story is largely forgettable because there's 4 or 5 missions.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's hidden behind the side quests that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
To pad it out. That's not
Yeah.
a Call of Duty story. A Call of Duty story is 14 missions of
Yeah,
story.
see, I half agree with that, but at the same time, 14 missions or 5 missions, Call of Duty games still only last 6 to 7 hours. So, 7 half an hour long missions, 14 half an hour long missions, or 5 hour and a bit long missions, you know.
But the missions weren't an hour and a bit long. They were 5 half an hour long missions with 10 half an hour long.
Nah, that, I mean, I'd done a couple of the side missions while I was playing the game, but I think 6 to 7 hours I think it took me to finish that game. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's number of missions aside. I think 6 to 7 hours is pretty much what I expect from Call of Duty. Any more than that, and now it's boring because
Yeah.
I am just doing the same fucking thing over and over and over again. But I do see the point, and the story isn't the greatest. Like I say, I enjoyed it, and I do see his point. I think they're gonna lose a lot of people if they stick to a sci-fi setting. But at the same time, my fear now is that next year we're gonna have a World War One shooter from Call of Duty simply because Battlefield fucking done it this year, and that's not what Call of Duty want to be doing.
No, Call of Duty want to. I don't know what the next thing is because it's been a long. Battlefield 1's been successful because it's gone to World War 1, because it's an entirely new and different area of time that no one has really done before, and they can pick and choose the battles that they want that are iconic, that people remember, that have films after them and stories that are well documented and well known.
Yeah.
In cinema, in books, in TV, they could do that.
Yeah.
With the next Call of Duty game, pick a time that's well documented in some way.
Yeah.
That you have you won't get the multiplayer side of it if you go back to World War II or before.
I think the issue,
because it's not the skater shooter.
Yeah, I think the issue for me with Call of Duty isn't where the problem they've got actually, they keep going to the future because whichever developer it is at the time keeps trying to innovate, and obviously, you know, we hark back to Call of Duty 4 again. The multiplayer was a true innovation in what it'd done, and the single player was a fantastic single player. But because everything in that way has been done, and they're looking to innovate, they think they have to go futuristic so they can make silly shit that the game can do, you know, wall running and double jumping and all this bollocks that all these games now do. But I think they're running out of ways to innovate, and so they're getting kind of desperate. Back to basics, I think, is what they need to be doing now. And please God, not World War One.
Well, they could quite easily do current warfare. So what? The difference between what Modern Warfare thought was going to be modern warfare is very different to what actual modern warfare is. Yes, they have UAVs, but the other drones, the drones that are in Infinite Warfare, exist in the world now.
Yeah.
And you can have wall running to an extent, and to an extent redo the mantling for parkour.
Okay.
I mean, maybe do a parkour shooter like what was that? The cell shaded game. Fuck, I've forgotten it. It was released not that long, a couple of years ago.
Talking about body count.
No.
You lost me.
Blink.
Brink. Yeah, no one will make a game like Brink anymore because that failed fucking miserably.
But it could work with an actual, like, modern shooter style game rather than cel shaded. This game's a piece of arse, but buy it anyway.
Yeah, the
Please
problem
give
is
us money.
they need to do it. They need to innovate, and at the same time, it needs to still feel like Call of Duty, which is what they're struggling to do at the moment.
Yeah, I suppose.
But
at least with Titanfall, it felt like a good. It felt like the guys from who left Infinity Ward and made Respawn knew what they were doing when they were making a new shooter.
Yeah, but it felt like they were being allowed to do what they wanted to do. I think that's... What do you think, Matt? I think that's us done.
I think that's us done, yeah. Cool. 3.5 hours later.
Yeah. So, only a couple of things left to do. A recommendation for this week, mate?
My recommendation is something I mentioned earlier on in the news, which was after N7 Day yesterday, Mass Effect 2 and 3 are available for free on EA Access on Xbox One.
Cool. And very quickly then, my recommendation will be from hopefully the Tuesday, I think, after the podcast airs, on Games for Gold is Far Cry Blood Dragon, which is for 360 and backwards compatible for Xbox One, so should absolutely be picking that up because it is outstanding. I do want to do a quick thing, and it's not something I'm going to do every week, but the last couple of weeks I've been absolutely blown away by the amount of support we've got. I know you don't listen to many games podcasts, but I listen to quite a few, and we've got some very, very cool plugs from some very cool podcasts over the last couple of weeks, and it was genuinely humbling to hear people mention our podcast on this podcast I've listened to. One of them for close to 3 years I've been listening to them, and it was amazing. So I just want to say a big, huge thanks and a bit of a shout out. You must go and listen to these people as well. So our friend Matt Lambourne is a host for RGDS, the Retro Gaming Daily Show. So you should absolutely subscribe to them and have a listen. And Chris, who's Dastardly Jabby on Twitter, who is a host for the Same Coin podcast. He's given us a couple of shout outs as well, and he is a very cool guy, and the Same Coin is a very cool podcast. You should absolutely be listening to that. Guys, I cannot thank you enough for the shout outs. It's like genuinely, it was humbling to have that. It was absolutely great. That said, it's getting very late and I want to go to bed. And I've got to edit this mammoth of a fucking thing tomorrow.
It's nearly midnight.
It is nearly midnight. Where can people find you, mate, if they want to find you outside of this podcast?
They can find me on Twitter, the John_CU, on Xbox Live as Long Dong Silver.
And I am at Brooker411 on the Twitter. We are at Character Unlock on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram now. Don't forget that. And you can find me on PSN and Xbox Live at Troublemaker411. And if you don't want to find either of us anywhere else, we will be back in a couple of weeks, and I believe we are going to be talking about stealth games as our main thing.
Yeah, stealth games.
Cool. Until then, guys, thank you very, very much for listening, and we will catch you in a fortnight. And that, mate, is us fucking done.